Good day. In the 90s, superheroes were loud and colorful. In the 90s, arcade beat 'em ups were loud and colorful. You combine the two together, and you've got a match made in heaven. And one little slice of heaven was X-Men, the arcade game.
X-Men, the arcade game, was developed and published by Konami and released to the world in March of 1992. I believe I personally played this game sometime around 1994, as at the time I played it, I was more familiar with the then current X-Men the animated series, and thus I was a bit perplexed by the roster of characters and the costuming. But I cared not, because I got to beat the crap out of oddly small Sentinels as my favorite X-Man and third favorite superhero of all time, Cyclops. My strongest memory of this game is when I played it at the local baseball diamond. The version of the game they had was the 2-player arcade cabinet, and I spent many a quarter on that game, because even as a kid I found baseball to be insufferably dull. X-Men Arcade is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you choose from a roster of all the great X-Men: Cyclops, Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, man that dude is so underused, and last but not least, Dazzler! This game was originally meant to tie in with the obscure X-Men TV show pilot, Pride of the X-Men. That show was a vehicle for the kid character Kitty Pryde. She does show up in the game, but you could not play as her. That show was never picked up, and instead we got the far superior X-Men the animated series. X-Men the arcade game is a Konami-style beat-em-up, and as such, you have an attack button, a jump button, and a superpower button. The movement in the game is good, but it's a bit stiffer than the Capcom offerings of the day. This also is not nearly as deep as a Capcom beat-em-up as well, but it's still fun enough and is saved from being dull due to how the attack button works. You don't just throw the fist out there and call it a day. Instead, you have different animations play at different times. And damn, you can kick them when they up, kick them when they're down, and when you're Wolverine, you can kick them all around, ladies and gentlemen. The superpower button is a major quarter muncher though. You are playing as a superhero, but if you use the superpower, you spend your life points. Thankfully, you can't kill yourself by firing off the superpower over and over again, but eventually you will drain your life points to 1 hit point, and let me tell you this, the game is hard enough as it is with a full life bar. Each X-Man will have their own superpower, and they are all bloody awesome and very impressive. With Cyclops' being the best, of course. Konami really wanted that money, and so the screen is filled to the brim with enemies, and every bloody boss is cheap. In the bad way. As a kid, I sometimes was able to make it to the first boss, Pyro, and beat him on a buck. Sometimes, and usually after I beat Pyro, I would be killed 2 seconds later, and I was never even able to come close to beating the game back when I was a kid. If you actually were able to beat the game in the actual arcade, you deserve to be crowned Pro MLG and be given the sacred chalice of Monster Energy Drink. X-Men, despite its difficulty, never becomes tedious or a slog, and it never outstays its welcome, and you can beat it with unlimited credits in about 30 minutes, and it will be a 30 minutes well spent. So, in the arcades, you had 2, 4, and 6-player arcade cabinets. That 6-player arcade cabinet was nothing short of amazing and was bloody huge. X-Men totally dominated the arcade scene at the time, and is one of the most popular beat-em-ups to this very day, and with good reason. It was really bloody fun, and really bloody impressive. Today, if you want to just play the game, the best option is to play it on MAME or RetroArch. Arcade 1-Up did release an arcade cabinet back in 2021, and you can still get them on Amazon for about $750, at least as of this recording in October of 2023. What you're going to want to do is, I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but watch for sales, as I was able to personally acquire one for about $500, but I've not had a chance to set mine up as of this recording, so sadly I cannot report on its quality. At one time, you could get the game on the Xbox Live Arcade, PS Store, Android, and iOS. Believe it or not, I bought X-Men Arcade for Android and played it on the Nook Color about 12 years ago. It ran like crap, but was still bloody fun. If you've never played the game, rope in a couple friends and put the smackdown on the Master of Magnet. So you want to know why this game got so popular and still maintains its popularity today? Look at these graphics. This game bloody pops. The art is bright and colorful and extraordinarily detailed. The player and enemy sprites are huge, and the backgrounds are bloody well amazing. Look at all those details back there. Remember, this is 1992 we're talking about, and the animations, holy crap are they smooth. The whole game runs pretty damn good too, with zero slowdown. And at the time, and really today, it's kind of like a comic book come to life. Sound design is also quite good and turns me on. All the hits sound meaty, and the VA work comes from a time when mistakes or bad translations could make a game even more memorable. And some VA actors in this game would later go on to voice characters in the X-Men animated series. With that in mind, the voices would be altered for some of the re-releases due to rights issues. I do not know if the arcade 1-up has the original voices or the new voices. So if you want the original arcade experience, the best way to play the game is still going to be MAME or RetroArch. Music for the game is so bloody good. It really fires you up to get to beating bastards in the face, and it's good enough that it can be listened to outside the game itself, and you better believe it's on my bloody phone when I go running. The game has remarkable presentation for 1992. You got intro cutscenes that feature voice acting. Yeah, that's passe now, but back in 92 through 94 when I played the game, it wowed audiences, including me. And there are voice clips to be found throughout. The story for the game is really awesome. This is like an X-Men comic come to life. It really does get what X-Men is supposed to be. So in this game, Magneto is up to his old tricks and has gathered the fell forces of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to try and take over the world. Somehow, the menace of Magneto has managed to shrink down the usually giant-sized Sentinels to human size so us mortals can bash them about the head and shoulders. Professor X tells you to go and save the city, and only the city, because screw everyone else, I guess. What follows is an awesome tour of the X-Men comic world. You got Muir Island, although it's called Island M in this game for some reason. You've got Asteroid M, you fight on the moon, you beat the crap out of all the famous Brotherhood mutants such as Pyro and the Blob. Other famous villains show up too, such as Juggernaut and Emma Frost. Will Cyclops stay faithful to Jean Grey, or will he subscribe to Emma Frost's OnlyFans? Just insert $29.95 to find out. Less famous villains show up too, such as Wendigo, whoever the hell that is. You also fight Samus Aran as a common enemy. Guess she spent too much of her Metroid money on the Space Coke. The game never wastes an opportunity to take your money, and after you have beaten every boss and saved everyone, it's time for a boss rush to the end. And what an end. You face Magneto, Master of Magnet, and his boss arena is a thing of beauty. Too bad this fight isn't a thing of beauty, it's cheap as hell. His attacks are devastating, and you can expect to spend something like $5 just defeating him. With the menace of Magneto defeated, the game ends on an English-filled text screen that essentially says the X-Men's adventures will continue, which sadly they never did, as there was never a sequel to X-Men the arcade game. A missed opportunity to say the least.
If you haven't booted up this game in a while, you know what to do. For me, this is the perfect X-Men experience and encapsulates everything good about the very concept of the X-Men. You got the good music, you got the fun plot, you got those cool uncanny uniforms that you never get to see anymore. All told, this is one of my favorite beat-em-ups of all time for a reason. And so, I'm General Lotz, wishing you good AVP, the arcade game, and good Punisher, the arcade game, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.